What's going on, everybody? We are occasionally coherent. I am KC, along with my co-host, the Goose. We are Sans Captain Kriegs for a few episodes here as he gears up to move his way back to our neck of the woods, which is the old western Wisconsin. So,
Western Wisconsin, right?
There you go. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So so Captain Kriegsless once again.
Right.
I'm beginning to think that like half the reason why he wants to move is just so he does not have to do the pod.
You know, I feel like there's...
I think there's,
there's probably something
like
to that.
some motivation there for whatever reason, but whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, we can just go Captain Kriegsless.
Yeah. We'll go through and we'll cover every single topic that he would want to talk about in the episodes that he's not going to be here.
That's exactly what we need to do, yes.
So, like, all of the things that he loves.
Like, record this podcast like it's aimed directly at him.
See, and we'll know, like, if he listens to this now, because he's going to say something to us.
He probably will listen. I think he called out something that we did last time that we were without him, so he probably does listen. So I'll give him credit for that. But that's about it.
Yeah.
And actually, the house that he's moving into, I got a chance to drive by it yesterday.
Yeah?
So I actually saw his house before he saw his house.
Dude, that's just how crazy the market is. Like the fact that you're buying houses based off of video tours and pictures.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It's what you have to do. Like it's just so bonkers. You know, me and the wife are going through similar situation, trying to find a place for ourselves, and it is just
dude, there's stuff out there. That's what I was doing while you were prepping, and I was just wasting time here.
Yeah.
I was looking. There's stuff out there. I'm sure half of it probably already has buyers and stuff, but still, stay on top of it. I managed to make a nice little video game purchase today. Yeah. Just happened to jump on Facebook Marketplace at the right time and made it happen. So that's kind of the way.
Those are the deals, man.
Yeah,
for sure. I've definitely had my share of those deals where it's just like, dude, I jumped on it right away, and finally, there's been a couple of them that you come away with
so today's big deal that I found on Facebook Marketplace plays right into today's topic, which I was informed is video game related.
It is. So and we can dive right into it. I feel like we'll be able to take up a decent chunk of time on this. So I've got in front of me,
because we're all about just taking up time,
is a list of the top 30, and this is all according to ranker.com.
Top 30?
The top
Holy
30
crap.
Video games, or top 30 hardest video games of all time.
Go get a beverage, folks, before you sit down to...
Yeah.
Actually, I have a beverage today.
Yeah, there you go.
I have some coffee with a little extra in there.
A little extra in there.
Sure. Little tippy cow.
Oh, nice. There you go. I'm just drinking a classic. I got a brisk with the watermelon lemonade, which is pretty solid.
Just for audience awareness, it's not a work day today, so
yeah, it's Sunday. not that it would matter in this day and age, but
I mean, I try to mind my P's and Q's on a work day.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't mind having a beverage when it's not work day. Yeah.
All right, so I've got in front of me the list of the hardest video games of all time. The reason that this list came up and the reason that I thought it'd be good is there's a game that recently came out called Elden Ring, and it sparked the discussion of the most difficult to beat video games of all time.
Really?
It's a very difficult game. It comes from a developer who's known for developing those difficult games, and there's a few games on this list that fall in that category, and we'll see if maybe this new game Elden Ring falls on the list as well. So it recently came out. It's been a hotly anticipated release, and everyone kind of knew that it was going to be like one of these very difficult games that it's going to really challenge people, frustrate people, one of those kind of games. So
yeah, interestingly enough, there's so I work for a large corporation, right? And there's a lot of like special interest groups and stuff There's actually a video game special interest group, which I happen to be a member of, even though I don't really participate in that much of it. And the Elden Ring game has been a hot topic in that group. There's people on there that are like serious gamers, that happen to work at the same company that I do. And Elden Ring has been a big topic of discussion with them. So I can see why that got brought up. Yeah.
So, without further ado, why don't we dive into it?
Hit it.
So I'm gonna go 30-1. There's gonna be a few in here that I've played. There's a few in here that the Goose has played, and there's a few in here that neither of us are gonna really know much about. But I've got a little bit of. I tried to grab a little bit of information on each of them as well. If anybody's ever been on Ranker.com, there's really not much information other than the name. So I tried to go through and grab like the release date and platforms and stuff like that. And for a few of them, I threw in like a little note about the game as well.
For starters, is Karateka on there on the Apple IIc or IIe platform?
I'll go ahead and spoil it and say it's not, but there is actually the very number 30 is a Macintosh game.
All right, let's hear it.
It's a game called Myst, spelled with a
yeah,
Y.
Absolutely.
I know you're aware
game.
of that one. It was initially released in 1993 for Macintosh, and then later on it became available.
That was 1993?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember that game when it came out. It was a pretty big game.
Yeah. So
I don't think
one of the
had
first.
It, though.
Yeah, it's one of the first kind of like first person.
Yeah.
Like actually, first person. Like there was other first person games out there, but first person like
it was like
looked a lot different, a little more 3D. That kind of thing.
It was like from your perspective as you played the game. I don't know. Maybe I did have it eventually for one of the other platforms, but because I didn't have a Mac back then. But I can remember watching gameplay of it, and the perspective was like your eyes, basically. And that was like definitely new, for back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Which nowadays it's like the way that
that's the way
so many
almost all games are. Yeah.
So like I said, it launched on the Macintosh, but then nowadays it's actually available on more modern consoles like the Switch, the Xbox Series X and S.
You can get Myst on the Switch.
Yeah, and you can
Not the original one.
You can actually even play it in VR via the Oculus Quest system as well.
Dude.
Yeah.
Interested.
So that was number 30. So number 29, a game called Spelunky. Spelunky. It was released in 2008, and it was initially available for PC via Microsoft, but then they made it available years later. They actually released the source code of the game a year later, and then people ported it over to consoles like the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch. And it is a 2D platformer, which if you think like classic Mario.
I've seen
style.
Screenshots of that. Yeah,
so that's kind of the gameplay style.
I've never played it, but
the 2D platformer is going to come up a lot on this list.
I'm sure.
Spoiler alert. So.
Oh yeah, because that's like your classic. Like we really want to challenge this person, so we're going to make 50 billion levels, and like each one is a little harder. And every once in a while, you're going to run into a boss that's hard. And so, yeah, that's like your 2D platformers going to do that. Yep.
This next one I had never heard of. I didn't get a lot of information on it when I looked it up, but it's called Osu, and I'm going to pronounce a lot of these wrong, just a heads up. I'm like the worst person for this. OSU with an exclamation point. It's a free-to-play rhythm game that was released in 2007. The reason that it is so difficult is because almost all of the songs or quote-unquote beat maps are made by the community.
Oh.
So it's all like community supported. And then it is available on PC, Mac, and mobile. Yeah, I had never heard of it either.
I mean, fun fact, we've been getting the Game Informer magazine for a long time, and I don't remember ever seeing that in there.
Yeah, 2007, so, might not have...
I'm pretty sure we've been getting it since then.
Right.
I should have saved them because there's probably some collectabilities of some of the older ones now, but yeah.
All right. The number, and I had to list them in opposite order, so this is number 27, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 27. This one is one that Goose, I would hope, is familiar with, and it's Dragon's Lair.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
So those that don't know, Dragon's Lair was released in 1983.
I played Dragon's Lair on the arcade machine.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, it was initially released as an arcade game, but then later on it's been released on a bunch of different platforms. It's kind of less of a video game than it is an interactive animated film.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of a choose-your-own-adventure
exactly.
story. But there are some difficult choices in there.
Yeah,
it is
and
difficult to reach the end.
I'll say this, like back in the day, in my time, when you wanted to play a video game, obviously you either had the Atari, which was like not that great, or you went to the arcade and they had arcade machines, which were really cool. The challenge was you had to drop a quarter in that thing every time you wanted to play, and a lot of times that quarter didn't last very long. And Dragon's Lair was one where the quarter did not last very long, and sometimes, you only had a couple bucks. It's like, do I play Galega for 15 minutes? Or do I play Dragon's Lair for 5 minutes? Even though Dragon's Lair was kind of intriguing, I could get on the high scoreboard on Galega, and so my quarter went further there than on Dragon's Lair. That was almost like, there wasn't like a huge separation of rich kids versus poor kids at the arcade. It was, everybody was kind of mixed, but that was definitely a game like, if you were going to play it on the arcade machine, like you had extra money, if you wanted to really play it. Yeah.
And so number 26 on the list, because that was 27, is PacMan. So PacMan was first introduced in arcade in 1980. It's since become one of the most popular video games of all time, spawning multiple game spin-offs, TV shows, and even movies. The difficulty behind Pac-Man obviously was getting that perfect score, getting all the way through the game.
Just getting all the way through the game, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever actually got all the way through Pac-Man. I know I got pretty good at it after a while, but I can remember that Pac-Man. No, Pac-Man wasn't the first video game I played, but it was pretty close to the first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I watched a documentary that talked about Pac-Man's initial release and then Mrs. Pac-Man, how that actually was a add-on, like an actual computer add-on to the game that was developed by somebody else to make the game harder because they were able to figure it out and they wanted the game to be more challenging. So then they made their own business out of selling these add-ons that arcades could take, so that the arcade would buy 2 Pac-Man machines, but then they would buy one of these adapters that this guy was selling.
Miss Pac-Man.
Plug it
in.
And
the Miss Pac-Man was always harder than the regular Pac-Man.
So it was like a harder version.
A lot of people preferred Miss Pac-Man.
I think they initially received like a cease and desist or something like that.
Really?
That said, hey, you can't do this, but then they turn around and I believe that they got bought out or were able to partner with them so then they actually started selling the official Miss Pac-Man games. So it was a super interesting document. I think it might actually be on Netflix. It might be like Video Games That Made Us or something like that.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll have to try and find it. Me and the wife watched it. It was a long time ago that we watched it, but it was super cool.
Interesting. There you go.
Number, I'm not even gonna say the number because I'm
just say next one.
So the next one, next one down the list is a newer game called Hollow Knight. So this is one that I have played. And it's a 2D adventure that was released in 2017. Initially made available on the Switch and PC, I believe. I think it might have been PC first and then Switch, and then
Hollow
later
like HOLLOW.
HOLLOW. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was made available on PC or PS4, Xbox One. So it's a really fun game. It's got a really interesting story. So I played through it when it first came out on PC. I was able to I got like a coupon for it, so I got it for just like a couple bucks or something like that. And I played through. I don't think I played through the whole thing, but it's definitely difficult. And I'm really bad at video games, so it was even more difficult for me. But really fun game. The art is super cool. The animations and stuff like that, and the
Cool.
And how they go about it is really cool.
So
another 2D kind of side scroller platformer.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yep. Next one on the list is Zelda II: The Adventures of Link.
Oh yeah.
So this is the sequel to the original Legend of Zelda game, released in 1987 for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Oh yeah. Good old NES, man.
Yep.
I had that game. It was hard. It was very hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of changed up how they like there was a completely different style of game from the
it
first
wasn't
one.
like the first game. Yeah.
So they changed things up, and it was widely considered one of the most successful video games of all time, and also one of the best video games of all time. It always pops up on those lists, and it's kind of funny. There's a lot of games that are on this list that also pop up on that best game. Of all time
sure, yeah, yeah.
So
I think people appreciate a difficult game.
Yeah,
generally, unless you got a lot of other stuff to do.
Right. The next one on the list, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, I believe, but it is one that I'm familiar with. I haven't played it. I do own it, but I haven't played it. It's called Celeste. I think I'm probably not pronouncing it. Celeste.
Celeste.
Celeste. Does that sound right?
Probably Celeste.
Celeste, sure. It's a 2018 platformer. Again, there's going to be a lot of these on this list. They tend to be the more difficult style of games.
Yep.
And it was released on the Switch, PS4, Xbox, and then later on PC.
That's on the Switch, huh?
Yep.
Huh.
This one's on. I don't know if it won Game of the Year, but it was one of those ones that was nominated for Game of the Year.
Yep.
A bunch of other stuff.
It looks good.
So I have it in my. I think I have it in my Epic
Epic
Games library or something like that. So
on the PC.
Yeah.
You'll have to let me know if you play it.
Yeah, for sure. Excuse me.
You okay over there?
Man. Oh, I've got just something in my throat. I don't know. I just had a bunch of phlegm and whatnot. Just decided to camp out it's just camping out in my throat for the for the day. That's kind of I probably sound a little more gravelly than I normally do.
Your tone, your volume is lower.
Yeah.
Just like you can tell you're subdued a little bit with your voice.
Probably. So. Hey, maybe I'll try and keep this voice, become a radio voiceover guy.
No, you need the really low if you're gonna talk like that.
Only in theaters. This Friday. Like that one of those kind of things.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so we're getting that was the first few. So here's another one that both of us have played. This is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. It's not just called Punch-Out. This is released in 1987, both as an arcade game and for the, I believe this would be NES as well.
Yeah. Well, it might be Super NES.
Super NES.
What year?
I didn't 1987.
Ooh, that's probably regular NES.
Okay. And it's a boxing game that the play style is you fight your way up as a boxer named Little Mac, and you fight your way up through the boxing rankings, and your final boss fight is with Mike Tyson. So it's like boss fight after boss fight after boss fight. You just kind of work your way up.
Yep.
This is another one of those that's widely hailed as one of the best video games of all time.
I don't understand why people feel like that's one of the best video games of all time.
Why is that?
It's just very predictable to me.
Yeah.
There's no story. There's no I don't know. It's all you're doing is perfecting a method of play over the course of, I actually got all the way through that game, and I'm a bad video game player.
Yeah.
And so it's
I know what you're saying.
But I mean, if you spent enough time doing that, jab, duck, jab, type stuff, you could get through it. And it's I don't see that game. To me, should not be on the list.
Okay. Interesting.
It's not a difficult game. If you do the time and understand the rhythm to it, it's not that difficult. I don't think.
Well, take it up with ranker.com.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I definitely played it. I played it a lot, and there was definitely, I think, so I could see where people would feel like that game might be on the good, on the list of some of the best games, only because it really made you want to beat that next guy, you know? And so, like, you would put the time in to try to beat the next guy.
Sure.
And then the next guy after that was that much harder, generally.
I know what you're saying.
And they had different styles, too. So you had, like, different... But still, like, overall, like, that game is so... I don't know. It just seems like a very rudimentary game to be on that list.
Okay.
To me.
Okay. So yeah, it's one of those. I really enjoyed playing it. It's one of those. It brings back a lot of memories of playing video games, like at our grandparents' house and at our uncle's place. These were the kind of games that we'd throw in, and me and Captain Kriegs would spend hours just punching our way through. Man, it was a good time. I enjoyed it a lot. Also, I guess I would agree that I didn't necessarily find it that difficult. That I'm kind of a bad video game player too, but it's also like. Definitely, when people call it one of the best video games of all time, I understand that because it's one of the most like universal, like people who weren't like really big video game guys or gals, whomever, really played that, and it's kind of where the sports games kind of can bring people into the video game world that aren't necessarily like. Plus, it's a little more universal, I guess. Is what I'm trying to say. Part of the draw
for that game too is just. The fact that it was Mike Tyson, and back then, like, Mike Tyson was a bad man. Like, I mean, from a boxing perspective, you never saw a guy so dominant especially in heavyweight. I mean, yeah, you had your Foremans and your, I don't know, Ali's, and they won a lot. But they won by outlasting and outmaneuvering and everything else. Tyson was just like cold-blooded. Yeah. Like he would go out there and punch somebody in the gut enough that they finally lower their arms and then he'd knock them out. And it would not take that long.
Right.
I mean, he was so good. And so, like, he had this mystique about him. And so putting his name on that game, too, really, I think, like... And plus, the game was in the arcade as well as on the console. So, like in the arcade, that was always like a big draw, for to have his name on there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, he was huge. Tyson was huge back then. So yeah.
Next on the list is one I'm familiar with the game. I never played it, but it's called Demon's Souls. It was originally launched in 2009 for the PlayStation 3, and then it was remade as a launch title in 2020 as a launch title for the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, that was one of those games when it came out, and I saw it, I was like, no thanks.
Yeah, for sure.
Not really my style.
Yeah, I've heard really good things, just not one that I've set on playing. So this next one is not one that I'm familiar with, but you might be familiar with this one. So the Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels.
The Lost Levels?
So this is actually the direct sequel to the Super Mario Bros. Released in 1986. This game, so the Lost Levels was released in 86. Super Mario Bros. Was released in 85. Similar gameplay to the original, but this time around Luigi and Mario each played a little bit differently. So Luigi had a little bit of different friction with the ground, so I don't think he slid as far as Mario did, and then he could also jump higher.
I don't remember ever seeing that or playing that. Huh.
And then there was also some new negative obstacles for players to get past in each level. There was actually mushrooms that had negative effects, and then there was some portals and stuff that would send you back in the level instead of sending you forward in the level.
So, interesting.
Next one on the list is another one that I know Goose is familiar with, and I'm familiar with it for just being around video games. You hear this one thrown around a lot, and that's Contra.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Contra was a big game back in the day on Super NES.
Yep, so it was a run-and-gun shooter released in 1986. It's been remade a few times. It was originally released on the NES, but then, like I said, it did come out on
we played it a lot on Super NES.
Yep.
Yep.
The next one is the reason that we were talking about hard video games in general, and that's the new one that just came out, Elden Ring. Right now it's at number 13. And then one thing with Ranker that I forgot to mention is they actually do... it's like live ringing, so people can go in and you hit an up or down arrow on something. So the list is constantly changing. This is the list as of today. March 6, 2022.
Number 13,
so,
huh?
Number 13 right now is, or not number 13, it's whatever the number on.
The opposite of 13 when you take
13,
it out of 30.
Yeah.
So that'd be 17.
There you go. 17 is Elden Ring. Brand new title from game developer who's also further down the list developing a few games that we'll get into in a second. Right now it's available on both Xbox and PlayStation consoles, both last generation and the new generation ones. And I believe it is available on PC. And then, interesting note on this one is the story for this game was written partially by George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones fame.
Oh, interesting. So you gonna play it?
Probably not.
Yeah,
like in all honesty, I just don't have the time to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It looks interesting. Yeah, it looks interesting, but I've never been that good at those.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I'm not the greatest at those either, so I just I'll leave it alone.
Yeah.
The next one is one that I'm not familiar with, but it's called Super Meat Boy, and it's a 2010 platformer that was first released when Xbox and Microsoft did their live arcade on the 360, so it was kind of like the first try at a subscription type thing to Xbox Live, and it was released.
Dude, I remember when they did that, and everybody was just like, "No, it's gonna be pay to play forever."
Right. now, how the times have changed.
Yeah, right? Well, you knew it was coming.
Right.
It was like writing on the wall. Yeah.
Yep. And then the next one. So this is Dark Souls 2. So this was released in 2014. Known for its difficult boss battles and enemies that could kill a player in just a few hits. This is that same developer as Elden Ring.
Yeah.
So, Dark Souls 2, I believe it was a Xbox One, PS4 release. One of the original.
That's a big one with the crowd at work on the gaming special interest group.
And the next one, this is one that I have played a very small amount of because I was given a free copy of it. And that is Nioh, Nioh. And it's an action-adventure RPG game that was released in 2017. After over a decade in development, this game they originally started developing this game in 2003.
Wow!
And they were trying to develop it as a launch title for the PlayStation 3.
Wow!
And then it came out as a title for end of life title actually for PlayStation 4. So this one I've played a little bit of. It's really fun gameplay. I guess I wouldn't consider it overly difficult yet, but like I said, I would say maybe an hour of gameplay.
It looked interesting, but I just never got. I just never played it.
Yeah. And then the next one on the list is actually the direct sequel to that one, Nioh 2.
Oh.
And then that was released in 2020 for both PS4 and then re-released a year later, kind of with some DLC for PC and PS5.
Oh, so, there you go.
Further down on the list, we get Mega Man, which was the original Mega Man was released on NES in 1987. And then the franchise has since spawned over 50 games and sold a total of 37 million units worldwide.
Wow.
So,
I didn't think they made that many.
Did you ever play the original Mega Man game on?
Oh, sure, yeah. Yep. I don't know that I ever had it, but I do remember renting it at one point.
Sure.
Back in the day when you go to Blockbuster, you could rent a video game. I remember renting it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was cool.
Yeah.
By that time, though, that was a game where if you didn't buy it when it first came out, you probably weren't going to find a copy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was why I rented it, because it was I was kind of wanted to play it, but I didn't really want to sink the money into it without trying it first, or at least seeing gameplay. And back then you couldn't go on YouTube and watch gameplay.
Sure, yeah.
So you had to. That's how you did it. Is you rented.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Next on the list, you might be familiar with this one, Castlevania.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I played
platformer released for the NES in 1987, and then it's also the inspiration for a very successful and critically acclaimed animated show on Netflix.
Yep.
So lots of Castlevania games.
I played Castlevania a lot.
Yeah.
Yep. I spent a lot of time playing that game.
Probably one of the original violent games.
Yeah, I don't remember it being especially difficult, other than it was just one of those games where it took a lot of time,
Mm-hmm.
Like you had a lot of intricacies to the game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Next, we have Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard of this one or played it.
I've never played it, but I know.
It's a side-scrolling adventure platformer released in 1991 for the Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of all I was able to find on it. There might be people in our audience who are familiar with it, and if it's a difficult game, let me know.
There you go.
Number 21 was the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game.
Oh, yeah.
This is an NES game that was based on the popular comic.
You probably played that.
I definitely played this one. And that was released in 1989, and that's
pretty sure
that was kind of
Uncle
it was
that.
kind of a platformer, but also a little bit different. Like
Yeah, it was
but it was
different.
fun. That was a
They
really
had like
fun game.
cutscenes and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So you had kind of it was
Yep.
a cool game.
Next we have, and we're kind of home stretch here. We're in the top 10.
Nice.
We have Ninja Gaiden Black. I apologize.
Oh,
So this is an interesting one. So this title itself actually appears on the list twice, and there's a reason for that. So this version of Ninja Gaiden was a reworked version of the original Ninja Gaiden game released on the original Xbox in 2005.
Huh.
So this remake was released in 2005, or not remake, just rework.
okay.
And it contained more costumes for Ryu, the main protagonist, and then new foes for him to fight. And it was like really interesting that they just they took the original game and just added stuff into it. Next on the list, this is one that I have played. I've watched a lot of gameplay of it, and it is really, really a lot of fun. I would definitely agree that it is very difficult because you can just die very easily, and that is Bloodborne, which is an action RPG that was released exclusively on the PlayStation 4 in 2015, and it's regularly cited amongst one of the greatest video games ever made.
The game is 7 years old already.
Yeah,
wow.
It's so fun, too.
I've never played it.
Really fun.
I've seen gameplay, but I've never
it
played
spawned a card game, it spawned a board game, and it spawned
that's
comic book
true,
series.
yeah.
So it's very, very popular, really cool. People really like the art style. It's kind of like a Victorian art style. Really awesome fighting gameplay. Really, it's very, very similar to Dark Souls. I don't know if it's necessarily the same studio that created Dark Souls, but everybody compared it to Dark Souls when it came out.
Yeah.
But yeah. Next one on the list, I believe Goose is familiar with this one. I haven't played this one, but I'm also familiar with it, and that is Cuphead, which was released in 2017, and it was praised for its hand-drawn animation, which was inspired by inspired by classic Disney and Looney Tune cartoons. It was originally released on PC, Xbox, and then eventually moved to Switch and PS4 as well.
Yeah.
This one was the talk of the video game industry when it came out. I remember that
It was so different, you know. Yeah, it was a cool game. I never played it actually, but I did. I did watch some gameplay.
There's also a animated show on Netflix that was released in February that is
really
inspired by Cuphead.
There's a Cuphead TV show.
Yep, and then it's also so the way that they made it, so the game, its maximum frames are 60 FPS for PC. They animated it the same way American films are animated, which is 24 frames per second. So when you're going through, you see the imperfections of the art and stuff like that, and they did that on purpose. So it's really, really cool. So you can see like some erased lines.
That makes sense.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, very, very, very cool.
From what I've seen of it,
very cool. If you haven't watched gameplay of it or anything like that, it looks like a very fun game. It's not something that I've had the time to dig into.
There you
go. I think I might have skipped one here. The one next one on the list is Dark Souls 3. So this is a sequel to the aforementioned Dark Souls 2.
So they're saying 3 is harder than 2?
So they're saying 3 is harder than 2. And this one was released in 2016 for both the PS4, Xbox, and PC. This is the one where there's a lot of videos and clips on YouTube.
That
kind of thing of people playing it at its hardest difficulty, not being able to do anything because you just constantly die and constantly die and constantly die. So that's one, when people talk about hard video games, that's always the one that comes to my head as well. Next on the list, we have the original Dark Souls game. So the original was released in 2011 for PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. It was praised very heavily at the time for its level design, its gameplay, but then at the time, people were very irritated with how difficult the game was because there really hadn't been something like that before. So it was incredibly difficult. I suppose. And now people look back on it like really like appreciating that difficulty. Next on the list we have, so I had talked about how there was a game that's on there twice, so that's Ninja Gaiden. So the original Ninja Gaiden from 2014 is a hack and slash game. Yeah. Released for the original Xbox, and this is another one that you see on a lot of lists of greatest video games of all time too.
Sure.
So this next one is one that I've definitely played, one of my favorites, and that's Battletoads. Battletoads, you bet. So this is an NES game, platformer. It's actually very similar to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game,
it is.
The way that the gameplay is, but it's a lot of fun. It was 2 players, so me and Captain Kriegs used to play it all the time. I was always there was like a copper, like fatter toad that I was always, and then you go through and just beat.
That's on that list, huh?
Yeah.
That game doesn't seem like a very hard game to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember a ton about it as far as the like gameplay and the levels and stuff like that.
Did we have that?
Maybe we were only getting.
Where did you guys
far.
play that? We never had it.
Somebody's NES.
Okay.
So there was a few people who had NESs.
Yeah, okay.
Play a lot of these games on. I guess we never had one, but yeah.
Well, we did, but I mean, I have a Super NES now.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. And this next one is one that I'm familiar with. I haven't played it, and that is Sakura Shadows Die Twice. It's a 2019 action-adventure game released on PC, Xbox, and PS4. The game features an emphasis on stealth, exploration, and combat, particularly in boss battles. Their boss battles are considered like among the best, like way that they designed them.
Dude, I'm all about stealth video game playing.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard a lot of good things. This is one that I might have in like one of my libraries as like a free like.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You get a monthly game through Epic
Check
Games.
it out.
You get a bunch of games. I might have it on there. I'm familiar with it, and I've heard of it a few times. So
yeah.
And then the last one is one that I am not familiar with. I think you might be, and that is Ghosts and Goblins.
Oh, yeah.
It's a side-scrolling platformer developed by Capcom. It was originally released in 1986 in both arcades and on the NES.
Yeah.
The reason that it is considered one of the most difficult games of all time is because players can only be hit twice by an enemy before losing a life.
Yeah. Yep. That one did not go very far in the arcade because, like, your quarter was done.
Yeah.
And then, if I remember right, they didn't print very many copies of that game for the NES, and so they're, like, pretty expensive now, I think. Yeah. But, yeah. I might have played it once or twice on the arcade, but that's about it. Yeah. Sure. Dude. Definitely missing some games in that list.
Yeah. Other quick notes on this one before we move on. So after you defeat the final boss in this game, so once you die, when you lose a life, you have to restart a level completely.
Yeah.
And then after you defeat the final boss, in order to get the final ending of the game, you have to go back through and play the entire game again on a higher difficulty.
Jeez.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh my god!
So there's a few games that I've played like that have like the you gotta.
Yeah. All right. So I have a couple nominations for the list in my mind. Well, one is the new Pokemon Arceus game.
Yeah.
That is a challenging game.
Okay.
Very challenging.
I would agree with that.
For a Pokemon game, it's probably the most difficult Pokemon game that I've played, other than Ranger, which is only difficult because you have to use the stylus to circle stuff.
Yeah.
Which is obnoxious. But the other one too that I think is a sneaky, really difficult game is Rock Band Metallica.
Really?
Rock Band.
Guitar Hero Metallica, you mean?
Was it Guitar Hero Metallica?
Yeah, I think so.
Whichever one it is. So back in the day, we used to play a lot of Rock Band and Guitar Hero. Mm-hmm. And so I got to the point where I would start buying the band ones. So there was like Aerosmith and Beatles, and I don't remember which were Rock Band and which were Guitar Hero. Aerosmith, Beatles, AC/DC. I feel like there was another one, but Metallica. So Captain Krieg's, we're going to give Captain Krieg some credit where credit is due here. Captain Krieg's is one of the best Guitar Hero players that I've seen. Maybe not the best, but he's pretty dang good at Guitar Hero.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I'll give that.
He's pretty good.
He is pretty good.
Like,
he was one of the.
He could go.
He could.
On
I mean,
expert.
He played everything on expert, and he usually,
stuff.
he usually got.
In
the high
Metallica
90s, if not perfect scores. So.
Guitar Hero Metallica or Rock Band Metallica, whichever one it is. He struggled to get through that.
Yeah.
And that was, I think he would say, one of the most difficult of that genre. Was the Metallica one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, speaking of rock bands, so we had some friends over here this weekend, and that's what we did last night is we played rock band. We got the band going.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. It's crazy right now because all of that stuff is very difficult to find at a good price.
Oh my gosh.
And it's super frustrating because they released, I think, Rock Band 4, so they released that on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and I think Wii U. And originally they had said, hey, just so you know, like, we're not ever releasing a game again.
Yeah.
Basically all the stuff that you spent money on is worthless. So people were literally like throwing away
their
guitars and their drum sets and their microphones and stuff like that because it was literally worthless.
Right.
And then they came out when they were releasing these games on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and like, oh, by the way, all your old stuff is compatible with the new game. So all the stuff that we had gotten rid of, we could have literally just bought the new game and still had all of the controllers and stuff like that to work. So that was super frustrating. It was like, oh, come on, like, what are we doing here? So I've acquired I got a drum set, a couple of guitars. I actually bought a keytar, which works for Rock Band 3.
Wow.
And then a microphone.
Yep.
And I play it on the Wii, so we got that all set up. And we were playing on Rock Band 3. And it actually has, I don't remember what they call it. It's not expert mode. It's like pro. Like they have pro mode for guitar, drums, and the keyboard.
Okay.
And the pro mode for guitar, if you want to play it that way, you actually play basically a real guitar. And it's a separate controller that you have to get.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's super cool.
Huh.
And then the drums is
they have
playing
that Rocksmith where you actually play your guitar.
And then you're playing the actual like beat of the drums and stuff like that, like as they would. And then the piano, or the keytar, you're actually playing like the full set of keys instead of you have to play a key in this section and this section. Like the colored, they're not colored. You're playing the actual notes.
Oh, wow.
And then I think you can do like pro vocals, but then it's just, you're just singing like karaoke basically.
Sure.
And so we were rocking out to some. we played a little bit of Rock Band 2, and then I think we switched over to Rock Band 3. So
cool.
That was fun.
Yeah. That's fun.
I'm in the market. I need new guitars. So if anybody has Rock Band or Guitar Hero controllers for a Wii, I need those because the ones that I have are...
They're getting a little...
well, one of them doesn't strum properly, so...
Gotcha.
You have to... That one's designated as the bass guitar because you can only strum up on it. Which I don't mind.
Yeah. There you go.
If I play guitar, if we're doing the band
stuff,
I usually do play the bass guitar instead because I'm not that good at that game. I'm good at the drums. I learned that last night. I was all the way up to hard on the drums. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Did you play some Creed?
We were actually disappointed because we couldn't find any Creed or Nirvana songs, and me and my buddy were over. We wanted to rock the. Yeah, if there would have been Creed on there, I'd have been rocking that. You better believe it. You better believe it.
Oh, jeez.
So
unbelievable.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time playing Rock Band. That was a good time
for sure. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
So.
Do we want to mention our movie review from last weekend?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Goose and I were able to venture to movie theaters here on Friday night and take a look-see at the new Batman movie, The Batman.
Batman.
What were your thoughts on it, Goose?
Well, I would say
spoiler-free thoughts. Sorry.
The Batman is a bad man.
Yeah.
Spoiler free. So I would just say it's a 3-hour movie that could probably be about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed that extra time, and it didn't. Whenever I go to a movie that's a really long movie, I always feel like if at some point during the movie I feel like, come on, get it going, then it's really too long. In this movie, I never really felt that too much.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like, even though it's a long movie, it's actually, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Could have been shorter just for the sake of time, but it probably would have taken away from the movie a little bit too.
Yeah.
What I really like about it was the kind of cinematic experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was some very, there was some really cool cinematography, like very experimental and very like unique perspectives, and just stuff that, like, you could tell they put a lot of thought into the way that they produced it and filmed it. The story was really good, very compelling. I mean, classic Batman, so it's not like some new, like, amazing Batman story, but it was a good story and they played it out properly, rather than a lot of times in a classic story, like a classic Batman or a classic Spider-Man, they kind of cut corners.
Mm-hmm.
And they definitely didn't cut corners. There was one aspect of the movie that I really didn't care for, but I won't say what it is just because of spoiler stuff. But yeah, no, I really liked it. What did you think?
I was very, very impressed. Definitely not disappointed. I mean, it was a long movie, but I wasn't like irritated at the length because of the story that they were trying to tell. So they made it that long to make sure that, hey, we're not cutting anything out of this story.
Yep.
And they do a great job of that. I think Robert Pattinson does an awesome job as Batman. It's interesting. I mean, and none of this is spoilers because it's in the description of the movie, but he's a young Batman. Like, he's only been Batman for
fairly
a very
young,
short amount of time. And throughout the movie, like, you can tell that they do a great job of being like, hey,
he's trying to figure it out.
He's making mistakes.
Yep.
He is not doing things like the way that
Albert has to step in.
Yeah, Alfred's helping him out.
Alfred,
he's got Gordon helping him out. He's young and he's still learning as Batman.
Gordon has to step in too.
Yeah, he's learning as Batman. So that's the thing that I like the most about it. Is
that
and
was
then
good.
It was very gritty, very, very grounded. There wasn't much for like a supernatural aspect or anything like that, which most of the time you don't have that issue with Batman anyways. I think the whole Dark Knight trilogy is pretty grounded too. It was definitely a different take on Batman too, and I enjoyed it. I think that they did a great job with it, and I can't wait to see. I know we have at least one spin-off show, if not two spin-off shows. I think there's two spin-off shows because there's one that's Gotham PD, so it's going to be with Gordon and all of that stuff, and then there's another one that's with Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Who was awesome, by the way. I thought that was by far one of my favorite characters in the movie.
I mean, yes, he plays a good Penguin. I think. He acted awesome. The one thing that I think the Penguin character in that movie is but more vulnerable than the classic Penguin, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's maybe not 100% true to like the comics. So if you're like a big Batman fan, I guess it's maybe a little bit of a spoiler, but like the Penguin character, I mean, obviously Penguin is flawed, but the Penguin character is fallible, I guess maybe is a good word. Like, he's not like a super villain. He's more of just a regular villain.
Yeah.
The other thing I really like, you said that it's gritty. It's really gritty, and it's one thing that I really, really appreciate in today's movies, when they can pull off the violence without the gore. and there was not a lot of gore. I mean, there was intimation of gore, but there was not, like, you didn't have to see it.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Like, I don't like gratuitous gore in a movie. Like, it's unnecessary to me. And this movie, like, had some stuff that was, like, gore, like, ew, big time ew. But they pulled it off without, like, forcing you to, you know, have it in your face.
Yep.
You know, which I really appreciated.
Yeah. No, they did a great job. Definitely recommend it to anybody who's a fan of Batman, a fan of comic book movies, a fan of.
It's definitely worth going to see in the theater.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Definitely.
I mean, it'll be a good movie at home too, but I think in the it's the cinematography and stuff is such that it's definitely worth seeing in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that's all we got for everyone this week. And we'll be back next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
All right. I'm good.